This is my 2003 Volkswagen Jetta Wolfsburg Edition 1.8 turbo. Kind of created this series to do a little breakdown of how to cheaply but efficiently build a little tuner car. If you were thinking about getting into tuner cars or thinking about getting a first car, or you just want to build cars, I'm going to try to do tutorials in a way where it's informative but entertaining enough where you guys don't lose interest on it. Really daunting for a lot of people, but it doesn't have to be. So this is a very specific car, but a lot of things are generic. Suspension, that's a big one. Yeah, welcome to my YouTube channel. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to rip off the tire. This is a 17 mil socket on Milwaukee 1/2-inch impact. If you don't have an impact, that's fine. You can use a breaker bar or just a regular 1/2-inch ratchet, preferred. And then it's easier to break them loose if you leave the car on the ground before you jack it up. And then just put your body weight into it, really. Once it's cracked loose, you can jack it up with a jack point and then rip them off. Since I got the impact, I'm just going to do it in the air. So to be able to drop either lower control arm low enough, you're going to have to take away the sway bar, the tie rod, and then you'll loosen this nut back here that secures through the shock. Also make sure you remove these rubber lines that connect through here, because you don't want to be pulling on those when you're dropping this out. So first we're going to remove this bolt through here. It's a 16 millimeter, both nut and bolt, and then a sway bar. So since we just dropped the sway bar, now I'm going to drop the tie rod that comes through here. It's just a 19 millimeter socket. I'm going to use the impact. So we removed the nut off the tie rod, or the ball joint. Now it's stuck in there, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a hammer. I threaded that nut back on, so it's on the bottom of the threads here, so that when we're hitting it with the hammer, we're not damaging those threads. So now that we have those two removed and we have free range of motion here, we're going to remove the pin that comes through here. There's actually a hole that goes through the shaft of this shock, so we're going to remove that pin, and then we're going to have to spread that open. Those are just two 18 millimeter sides, so one knot, one bolt. So to open this backing up, you need a special tool, which I did not have and nowhere in the world has unless you order it specially. So what I did was took a 1/4 inch extension and I shoved it in there and I twisted it about a 45-degree angle so that it opened that up, because that clamps down to the backside. And now that's given me enough room, so I should be able to knock this down and drop the shock out of this collar. So to remove the strut, there's a nut that sits through the top hat. This is a 23 millimeter nut, and if you're going to spin it, this shaft spins as well. So what I did was I clamped it with some vice grips, clamped down, took my impact and zipped it right off, and the shock came all the way out. So now we've got no shock right here, completely dismembered. We've got the new shock. This is our new shock. It's fully adjustable coilover. We got about 3 inches of travel you can adjust here with these two nuts, locking nut and a movable height adjustment. But these are max peating rods, adjustable coilovers for the Mark IV Jetta. Got these off of eBay for actually pretty cheap, so we'll see how they do. This kit was on sale for I think $250, which is pretty remarkable considering the quality. For this, we're just reusing our factory top hat and nut. You just slide your shock through the mount on the bottom, top hat on, and then put that jam nut back on. You're going to tighten that to, I believe, 44 foot-pounds. What I do is just hit it with the impact. Now that sits freely in there. Next, what you got to do is realign that lower mount. Line this guy back through. Make sure that tab's in the right spot back here where it's aligned. What we're going to do for that is we're going to grab a floor jack. We're going to lift up that steering assembly from the lower control arm. We're going to lift it up as we lower so that it'll slide right in. Get all dirty. What I like to do from reusing it, turn over the wire wheel, spin it, clean it up. Good as new. So now I'm just going to reuse the same pin going through here, through this hole through the collar. Those are both 18 millimeters. side. Throw the wheel back on. Ratchet for this because I can't get my gun in there. So as you can see, we're on the lowest setting here with our adjustable coilover. We'll probably have to adjust this once we get the wheels back on and we get this back on its own weight. Just because it's probably going to be too low, we're probably going to max out some things here. Probably sway bar end links are probably going to need to be replaced because they're probably going to be too long for a low. So we'll leave it at that for now. We'll come back to it once we get it back on its own weight. Now I'm just reconnecting some of these. Reconnect the wheel speed sensor. So this is with just the fronts done. As you can see, the rears are not done. But we have to have this on blocks just so it can get off the lift. And look at that. That is premium fitment right there. Oh, yes. That is awesome. As you can tell, this thing needs a serious amount of love. The only things done to it are this intake. It's got a forged blow-off valve, which is actually really nice. It's got a catless downpipe, but it's leaking oil from pretty much every place you can possibly imagine. Obviously, it's got some pretty gnarly rust, mismatched corner panel, fenders, and you know, it's not the best interior shape here, but it was cheap and it'll be an awesome project for you guys. Like it hasn't been kicking off in a while, it's all stuck up, so it's partially threaded up now. A little kick with the heel, pops right off. These brakes are rough back here. So for the rear, the shocks and the spring are not one solid unit like they are for the front struts. So first, to drop this control arm down, you're going to remove the shock. So there's two 16mm bolt and nut that come through on the bottom, and then these two 18mm bolts. So we're going to remove those first. Perfect. Now we're just going to remove these two top nuts and we'll pop the shock into it. 17mm. Now I'm going to install the spring perch. So these sit right in here in the bottom of this lower control arm. Sits on like that. But this washer and nut go right underneath through the bottom. It's a 19mm. Screw it on like this. Get it nice and tight like. I'm just going to hit it with my impact again. You can just use the wrench. It's not going to be crazy tight. Now as you can see, this perch is adjustable. You can adjust it however you want. I'm going to, for the sake of what I'm doing and not, I'm just going to max it out because it's easier to get it in. We're going to be using the factory bushing here. It goes on the top, sits right on top of the spring. This flat part is what sits on your perch. Sits in just like that. Again, this is adjustable. Once you have this on, it's under its own weight. This is going to suck back up like that. So we're going to be reusing this mounting bracket from the factory shock here. So you're just going to remove this with 17mm. Oops. So we're also going to be reusing this bump stop. But since we're lowering the car significantly, we're going to need to cut this bump stop. Just like that. So this is our new shock here. See, it came with a brand new lock nut. Don't go too tight. We do sell kits that replace these, but I'm cheap. I'm sure most of you guys are too. Slides on like such. Install a new nut. Now, I know there is a torque specification for this. I don't know it. I'm just going to use impact. So you see we've got our new shock here. We're using the same mount and dust cover. And bump stop. Down. We're going to have to lift this bottom piece up in order to get that in. First, we're going to install the top. doing the top mount, we're going to have to lift this lower control arm in order to be able to get this bolt through. Same thing like what we did before on the front with the sway bar and the tie rod. And you use the floor jack here to back up this lower control arm so that I can align the shock. Make sure it slides in. So we had to finagle that a little bit. We finally got this bolt through here. So now I'm just going to hit with the impact. It's 16 mil. You can see now, rear suspension all done on this side. Brand new shock in place, brand new spring. Yeah, this is adjustable. We are just going to throw the wheel back on and when we're down, we've got all of these maxed out to their lowest setting, but they are all adjustable. If we get it on its own weight, we'll have to adjust it after that. We're just kind of tightening them just to get the wheels back on. But for the other side, we're going to do the same thing. Pretty easy. Take a shock out, have that control arm drop, pull the spring out, put the new spring in, the new shock in. Let's get it all set up. It's easy peasy. The rear's a lot easier than the front on these, as is for most cars. Crazy low. I mean, we dropped it an easy 3 inches in the front, probably close to 2.5 in the back. That's nuts. I mean, you're going to rip this oil pan right off if we hit something big. We're probably 4 inches from the ground at the lowest point. That is gnarly. I wonder how we are steering clearance. Crazy. Definitely gonna have to lift the front up a little bit. I am scraping on everything now. I think we leave the rear where it's at for now. Good idea. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna adjust this collar up here. I'm gonna raise it about 1.5 inches, solely because we are scraping and hitting on literally everything. So if I give us another 1.5 inches of clearance, that should be plenty for now. But you do that by just twisting this collar up. It's on this threaded rod here on the shock. You just work your way up. As you can see, we've already moved about 1/4 inch. And you want to make sure you're at least relatively close, if not exact, with your thread count and distance from side to side, just because that's going to affect your drivability and how comfortable and how well it actually works out for you. So, as you can see, that was easy peasy, right? Got the front suspension all done, and we did the rear. As you can see, it looks pretty good. Again, everything's fully adjustable, so if there's any problems down the road, either it's too low or you get different wheels with different fitment, you can always adjust it that way. One thing is I will get a new top hat, because that's causing a little bit of a clunk, but once that new top hat's in, it should be perfect. Rode it around quickly. Seems pretty good, pretty solid. It's not rubbing that much after I adjusted the front, so drive it home. Hopefully everything stays intact. Obviously, there's a lot more to do on this car, as you can clearly tell, but more to come, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one.